Mrs. Suganti Kadirgamar, the Honourable Secretary of State for International Trade, Dr. Liam Fox, Your Excellency, Ambassador Aziz of Sri Lanka, the Permanent Representative of Sri Lanka, and Your Excellency Julian Braithwaite, the Permanent Representative of the United Kingdom, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, and especially friends of the late Lakshman Kadirgamar. It's really a great pleasure for me to welcome you here this morning. We're delighted, Secretary of State Liam Fox, that you have come especially for this occasion. It's really a great honour, and it's testimony to how dearly we all cherish the memory of Lakshman Kadirgamar. We are today unveiling a painting which has been very generously donated by Suganti Kadirgamar, the widow of the late Lakshman Kadirgamar, and we'll all have the opportunity to see that in a moment. It's very closely related to intellectual property. It's the story of the theft of musical intellectual property by a student from a teacher, and the intervention of the gods to rectify this catastrophe and to restore the copyright to the teacher. Please allow me just to say a few words about Lakshman Kadirgamar. I know the Secretary of State is going to address, he knew very well Lakshman Kadirgamar and is going to address the memory of Lakshman Kadirgamar, but especially for many of our colleagues who may not be familiar with this. First of all, I should say that Lakshman Kadirgamar was responsible for recruiting me, and that was in 1985. Lakshman Kadirgamar worked here from 1976 through to 1988, a period of 12 years. And it was a very formative period for this organization, because when I joined in 1985, the staff comprised 200 people. When Lakshman Kadirgamar joined, it comprised about 50 persons. And intellectual property, which is a somewhat specialized subject matter, as you all know, was even more unknown and recondite as a subject matter in those days. One of the great professional contributions of Lakshman Kadirgamar, who was the director of our Asia and Pacific Bureau, was to spread awareness in a very burgeoning Asia, growing Asian economies, of the value and importance of intellectual property. So he played an extraordinary role in this process. We now see that Asia is the source, the major source of intellectual property applications worldwide. When Lakshman Kadirgamar worked here, that was a very different story, and he was instrumental in bringing awareness of intellectual property to Asia and Pacific. In addition to his professional qualities, after having left here, he went on to be Foreign Minister, and I'm sure the Secretary of State will address this. But in addition to his professional qualities, Lakshman Kadirgamar was a wonderful human being. He was a gentleman. He was an extremely gracious person. He was extremely broad-minded, extremely open-minded, with a high intellect, and an openness, I think, to all cultures of the world. So it was most appropriate that he did spend 12 years in an international organization. For me personally, it was really a privilege to have worked for him for 3 years. He taught me a huge number of things in all fields of life, not just intellectual property. And so I'm absolutely delighted that we have the opportunity to honour his memory today with the unveiling of this painting. So thank you very much all for attending today. Thank you, Suganti, for this very generous gift, which is going to occupy an extremely prominent place, and daily we will be reminded of Lakshman Kadirgamar. And thank you very much, Minister, for your attendance this morning. We deeply appreciate that. And Ambassador, thank you for your cooperation in the organisation of this event today. Thank you.
Thank you, Director General. I now would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Aziz to take the floor.
Director General Mr. Francis Gurry, Honorable Liam Fox, British Secretary of State for International Trade, I thank you for taking the time, despite your heavy schedule, to come to attend this event. Madam Sugandhi Kadirgamar and my good friend Julian, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me extend a warm welcome to all of you to this event today. The late Mr. Kadirgamar was a man of exceptional poise, talent, and character. He was a brilliant legal luminary, a consummate diplomat, an inspiring orator, a clever strategist, and a pragmatic leader. Above all, he was truly a great humanist. The exemplary art of diplomacy and his exemplary art of diplomacy and persuasive skills that he had brought to bear on his new calling in 1994 took Sri Lanka to greater heights. He did that fearlessly until he was most cruelly downed in August 2005. While the office of Foreign Minister was adorned by its holder, it was public knowledge that the holder was very much an accomplished person even before he was inducted to that office in 1994. It was not surprising that a person of such stature made the culture of diplomacy and professionalism the mainstay of Sri Lanka's engagement with the world. A key attribute of that culture was its emphasis on accomplishment and result orientation. His highly analytical skill, courage of conviction, careful nurturing of talent, and creative thinking and leadership all combined to engender a constructive ambience within the Foreign Office, leading to the flourishing of the Foreign Service and its professionals becoming accomplished as well. He had nothing to benefit from politics, but politics had way much to gain from him. That, of course, we all know, that we know well, was his distinct footprint, a footprint that represents part of his legacy that spans all spheres he trod. The Trinity College and the University of Ceylon, the Balliol College, Oxford Union, the unofficial bar, the ILO, and the very place we stand here today, the WIPO, to which he gave up his prime of life. While the late Kadirgamar's accomplishment was truly exceptional, I believe that he had certain dreams which he wanted to see accomplished or fulfilled as well. The dream of a peaceful, reconciled Sri Lanka and a secure, stable, and sustainable world. We are aware that many strive hard, even now, both in Sri Lanka and abroad, without visibility, without expectation of personal reward, to carry some of his dreams to fruition through small steps and in small ways. The pivotal role being played by Mrs. Sugandhi Kadirgamar, who has dedicated much of her life to the promotion of the principles that Mr. Kadirgamar stood for, is well acknowledged. Even this event at WIPO today and the presence of the Secretary of State, Mr. Dr. Liam Fox, the Director General Gurry, and officials of WIPO who supported this initiative are significant steps in our path to realizing the dreams and ideals of the late Kadirgamar. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ambassador. I now have the honor to invite the Secretary of State to take the floor.
Good morning, it's a pleasure to be back here, and I'd like to thank you all for coming today for the unveiling of this piece of art donated to WIPO in the honour of the former Sri Lankan Foreign Minister. Lakshman was someone that I was honoured to count as a friend. I first worked with him when I was the junior minister at the Foreign Office in London, and in all my interactions, I found him to be sharp-minded, quick-witted, and sharing the same drive for peace in Sri Lanka. And I would like to thank you, Sugandhi, for giving me the great honour for being invited here today. While much remains to be done to heal the wounds of the conflict in Sri Lanka, the commitments made here in Geneva are integral to Lakshman's legacy. He is famously quoted about the interaction he felt between his upbringing in Sri Lanka and his education in the United Kingdom and elsewhere. He said that Oxford was the icing on the cake, but the cake was baked at home. And that, I think, really sums up both the internationalism of his approach and his deep love for his country. It speaks to me of the pride and the duty that he felt towards his homeland, and as a Tamil, in a country polarized by an ethnic divide, a place he tried to find solutions and create the kind of society that he wanted for his country for the future. And it was in his devotion to his country that he returned there after years in London and here in Geneva, where he was to pay the ultimate price at the hands of men of violence. He has many achievements, but it speaks volumes about him that he's also remembered for the impact he had here at WIPO, including recruiting the future Director General of the WTO. And of course, he talked very fondly about the time that he had here. He was not only a brilliant politician and a brilliant official, but he had a great legal mind, which is one of the things that I most remember about him. But he was also someone who was intelligent, thoughtful, pragmatic, and passionate, and I have to say, as someone who negotiated with him, tough. And he was selflessly devoted in bringing all of these skills to making things better, both across the Asian region and in his home country of Sri Lanka. He is someone who has been actively missed by all of us who knew him well. And I hope that for decades to come, future delegates of WIPO, member states, and staff at WIPO will be prompted by this painting to learn about him, who was in many ways a giant of a man, and to follow in the legacy of someone who served and still serves as a great example to us all in so many ways. Thank you, and Sugandhi, thank you for doing me the great honor of asking me to help unveil this painting with you. Thank you.